All right, my math people, welcome back to calculus. So today we're going to take the derivative of tangent. So there's a couple things you need to remember. Reminder up top, the derivative of sine is cosine, and the derivative of cosine is negative sine. So let's go back to our trig and remember that tangent is nothing but sine over cosine. So now that looks like a quotient rule. So from our quotient rule, we know we're supposed to take the derivative of the top. So the derivative of sine is cosine times the bottom, which is another cosine, minus, now we leave the top alone, and the derivative of cosine is negative sine, all over the bottom squared. So now if you realize if you distribute the negative at the top, you get cosine squared plus sine squared. So from our handy dandy trig, we should know that the top part is just equal to 1. Therefore, the derivative of tangent is just 1 over cosine squared of x, but we never really write it like that. Let's put our trig functions in the numerator. So remember your reciprocal identity. So cosine is the same thing as 1 over secant. So 1 over cosine will be the same thing as secant. So we can rewrite our 1 over cosine squared as secant squared of x. Take note, you don't want to go over the quotient rule every time. So please start committing these to memory. So we can do the same thing to get the derivative of, let's say, cotangent. So cotangent of x is the same thing as cosine over sine. So let's go ahead and do the quotient rule. So the derivative of the top is negative sine times the bottom minus, we leave the top alone, and the derivative of the bottom is cosine, all over the bottom squared. Now at the top, that's not the same thing as sine plus cosine, but if you factor out a negative 1 here, at the top we'll actually get sine squared of x plus cosine squared of x again, all over sine. So now the top again is 1 times negative 1, which is negative 1 over sine squared of x. And again, no trig functions in the denominator, so this would be negative 1 over sine would be the same thing as cosecant squared of x. So again, commit to memory. Don't go over the quotient rule all the time. So let's do something like, what was the other ones we had? Secant. So now secant is the same thing as 1 over cosine. Well, using the power of algebra, we can write this as cosine of x all to the negative 1. So now to take this derivative, the negative 1 come in front. What's in the middle stay the same. We subtract 1 from the exponent. 1 minus 1 is minus 2. We also have to chain rule this out. So the derivative of the inside will be negative sine of x. Negative times a negative is a positive. So at the top we get sine of x. And we can write cosine squared back in the denominator. So that would be the derivative, but in the book, they write it a little different. So sine of x over cosine of x times 1 over cosine of x. That's how they write it, and then they simplify it. Sine over cosine is tangent. 1 over cosine is secant. Commit to memory. I don't know how many times I'm going to say it, but just do it. And the last one we have will be cosecant. So again, let's go ahead and change this in terms of sines and cosines. So this will be 1 over sine of x, which we can rewrite as sine of x to the negative 1. So exact same steps as the last derivative to the negative 2, and the derivative of sine is cosine. So now if we were to write this, well, negative cosine stay at the top, and sine squared is at the bottom. And again, they don't write it like this. They kind of split it up. So we can rewrite it as, I'll just go down to another page. Negative cosine of x over sine times 1 over sine. So this part right here is negative cotangent. And this part right here is cosecant. So just for a refresh, we found out that the derivative of sine from the limit definition was cosine. The derivative of cosine is equal to negative sine. That was a big truck that just rolled past. The derivative of tangent is secant squared. Derivative of cosecant was cotangent, negative cotangent of x, cosecant of x. The derivative of secant, excuse me, was tan of x, secant x. And finally, the derivative of cotangent is negative cosecant squared of x. Hope this helped out a lot, and I catch y'all on the next video.